your source for all that is fitness. Ontario Muscle. Subscribe.
Hey everybody, Jeff here from Ontario Muscle again, bringing you another edition of Ontario Muscle Radio, where we bring local Ontario athletes and brands to you. And we're super excited tonight, joined by Kimberly Miller, our first female guest, and she has braved the waters to come in and wade into our pool of information and conversation and join us this evening. Thanks so much for being here, Kim.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. How was your day today? Things going well? Good day?
Yeah, things going really well. I recently moved to Toronto and I started a new job here, so things are really busy with that, but I'm enjoying it and I'm learning a lot. And I guess just getting used to the Toronto lifestyle.
The Toronto lifestyle. Oh my gosh, let's jump into that right away. So where did you? Okay, let's go back to your young years first. I always like to ask people, where'd you come from? What were you like? Where did you grow up? What kind of kid were you?
Yeah, so I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, which is about 3.5, 4 hours from Toronto. It's not like a tiny little, suburb or something. It's a city, but it's nothing like Toronto. I think the population is around 300,000. So I grew up there. I lived in the same house my whole life. Typical, typical Windsor family, I guess you could say. As a kid, I was really into sports and I was very like OCD and like level-headed. Like I always wanted to play sports. I always wanted to do like really well in school. I took up instruments at a young age. If me and my friends were playing games, like I wanted to be the teacher, So I always liked being in control and stuff as a kid. Growing up, yeah, like I said, I played a lot of sports throughout high school, played a lot of sports, got more seriously into academics. I still went to school in Windsor. I went to the University of Windsor. I got a degree in industrial manufacturing systems engineering. And then, I moved to Toronto.
A degree in what?
Industrial and manufacturing systems engineering.
Yes. Sweet. Okay, so then you went from there to Toronto. Continue.
Yeah, I got a job in consulting, actually fintech consulting, and that company is actually based out of Ireland. So I had to go to Ireland for a month to do training at their headquarters, and then after that, I was working out of their headquarters here in Mississauga, and then I got placed at CIBC at their FX Technology Center in downtown. So now I'm here.
Wow, so you're like fast track to the big leagues. So
trying.
So you go back to your school years, your high school years. You were in sports. You were in the music instruments. You were an academic. I figured all that. Because you're a reflection now of who you were then, and so we saw your educational progress, and we saw your music, and we see everything else. So, what were the sports? What were your primary sports in high school?
I actually started when I was younger. My dream was to be an Olympic gymnast when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. Yeah. I never really got into competitive gymnastics until I was a little bit older. I think I started when I was 12. God bless my parents, but they didn't want me doing gymnastics 20 hours a week, even though I wanted to do it because they wanted me to have balance. So I waited until I was around 12, 13 years old, and I could start coaching at my gymnastics center so that I could pay for my competitive gymnastics because my parents didn't really believe in it. I did gymnastics from 12 until around 15, 16. And then at that point, I sort of made the switch over to track and fields. So I did a lot of fields events. I did like long jump, triple jump, high jump, pole vault, and some sprints. And then after that, in university, I was on the varsity team and I was a long jumper. And then from there is when I finally sort of transitioned into lifting. And I did powerlifting before I got into bodybuilding. So.
Wow, you're like anticipating all my questions and just answering them. So here's your no, it's great. Here's your challenge. I want to see a video of you long jump posted on Instagram within the next week. You need to dig that up.
Oh gosh.
Fine. Actually, what I would love to see is the triple jump because that's just fascinating.
Triple jump. I can see if I can find a video. That wasn't so much my forte as long jump, but I can look. To be honest, I wasn't ever amazing at track and field anyways. That's kind of why I ended up switching into lifting because I found I was just naturally better at it. But I'll see if I could find a video.
So all right. Comment below, folks, if you want to see a video of Kimberly Miller doing a long jump because that would be absolutely brilliant to see. So that's you say you excelled academically, honor roll, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess so.
You guess so?
Yes.
Well, you were or you weren't?
Yes, it was.
Of course you were. That's great. No, that's fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know,
Appreciate it.
there's a real emphasis that needs to be placed on education, and a lot of people go
Hmm.
after it. Some people don't. It's not for everybody, and
No,
it's
it's
good to
definitely not.
see that you were driven in that direction and you really seized it and took off.
Yeah, for
So you
sure.
transitioned from what drove your interest into engineering?
I I feel like I was just like a special type of kid. Like I just kind of always, from a young
That's a
age,
teaser clip right there.
I kind of knew what I wanted. When I was very young, I mean, after the Olympic gymnast dream phase, I wanted to be a teacher, and my parents told me that there weren't going to be any teaching jobs. Kind of, ruined my dreams there a little bit, but that was fine. I found I was really good in math towards the end of grade school. So when I
Right.
was in grade 7, I started sort of researching the different types of engineering there were. And then by around grade 9, I kind of decided I wanted to go into the industrial sort of manufacturing stream with like a business. I also have a business minor. So I just
Okay.
knew I wanted to go that route opposed to like a straight mechanical, automotive, electrical, civil, something like that.
So when you say manufacturing process engineer, now I'm fascinated by. I'm subscribed to these channels that show machines that make things, everything from cookie cutters to intense wire twists and things like that. Is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about manufacturing floor, product production, or things like that?
Yeah, so the first year and a half of my schooling was pretty generic. All the types of engineering, just we sort of took the same base classes. After that, it's expanded a lot into process design and sort of
Okay.
working through manufacturing processes, problem solving processes, stuff like that. A lot of efficiency stuff. So shipping, within a manufacturing plant,
Okay.
or yeah, it was really interesting, and I was exposed to a lot of different things, and I was really lucky with my research. I started doing research when I was my first year of university, so by the time I was in my third, fourth year, I kind of had leeway
Right.
with what I wanted to do, and I actually really bridged the two, fitness and engineering, into my research work, and was able to do a couple projects where I could really like hone in on fitness, so it was really cool.
Actually, I recall seeing one of your projects that you had posted
Yes.
on the gram, and you forgive me,
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was exactly. But what was it, if you can remind me?
Yeah, so I did two projects that were sort of related to fitness. The one
Okay.
was like a personal research project I did with like a research grant at my school, and that one was it was a metabolic rate calculator. So it
Okay.
was it was sort of like a user interface, and the user would put in a bunch of information about themselves. They'd use like circumference measurements, and it would estimate their body fat percentage, and it would like estimate your daily calories you would need for maintenance or to gain weight, lose weight, etc.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really cool, and a lot of obviously legwork and research work and coding into that. So it actually prepared me pretty well for the job that I have now. And then the
Okay.
other project I actually did with my capstone group, because at my school there's like a capstone portion to engineering, which is
Right.
sort of like a start to finish big project. You do your entire last year, and we actually created a machine for working out like your medial delts. Like we
Hmm.
designed it, and we designed it based on like academia, and then also did our own research with like sensors that measure muscle activity. And then after I left, there was still a group that continued to work on it, and they actually like physically made the machine, and it worked well. So it was really cool.
Wow. And you didn't
Yeah.
have to slide that machine to Blake Morocco, did you? Because I'm always wondering where the shoulders came from.
Unfortunately, I did not know.
If
I
that's the
think it's still in the
secret,
lab in Windsor.
that's the secret shoulder machine. You need to bring it out to the world, and we can
Okay, fair
we can
enough.
test it. Absolutely. So that's fantastic. It's how you're able to blend all your worlds together.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so you graduated from university with your process engineering degree, and yet
Hmm.
you found your way into financial engineering.
Yeah, so when I graduated from engineering, I knew from the get go I didn't want to be like working on cars and stuff like that. And then as I went through university, I realized I didn't really want to be an industrial engineer either. I didn't want to be working in a plant, sort of like cutting jobs, I hate to say. But that's, essentially what a lot of people will do, especially in Windsor. It's a big auto city. So a lot of people are
Sure.
working in the
Yeah.
plants, and,
Yeah.
they're giving people more work to do on the line, and they're taking jobs away from people and stuff. And you know what? It's a job that has to be done, but it's not a job for me. And I was able
Right.
to figure that out, thankfully. So I started enjoying the business side of it, and I started gaining interest in finance and in stock markets and stuff like that. So I actually went out on a limb because I was supposed to do my master's degree and I had my thesis picked out and everything. I was going to continue the research on isolating different muscles and exercises and machine design and stuff like that.
Cool.
But my friend Joanna Rocket, I'm sure you know her.
I do. She's a big fan of yours.
I'm a big fan of hers too. But yeah, we were hanging out around last Christmas, and I was telling her how, like I was happy and I was excited about my master's, but I was like, I'm not really happy in Windsor anymore. I've always had my eyes set on Toronto or set on a bigger city, and I felt myself getting a little bit bored there. And she's like, why don't you just see what jobs are available up here? And, that night I went home, and it was almost like it was out of a movie. I went onto like my school website and I found this like one job that was like the perfect job. It's the one that I applied for. I didn't apply for any other jobs. And then I got that one. So here we are. I did obviously turn down the master's, and now I'm working up here in Toronto.
And a master's is something you can always go back and do.
Absolutely.
Should you want to later.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't do my master's until I was 30. So, it's always there for you.
Yeah.
And you're only young. You're about what, 16 now, right?
16. Oh yeah.
You
just had my
look
16.
You look 16. I've got it here though on a nice piece of paper. I can't find it, but that's okay.
22. I'm 22. I just turned 22 this year.
Just turned 22, engineering degree.
I'm a baby.
Got the world by the behind. Oh, you know what? Get out and you're in a position to go and live life and adventure and have lots of fun. And
Exactly.
I remember sending you tips of things to do in Ireland. I worked in Ireland for a while.
Yeah.
Did you get to the Anarum Coast?
I did not. Unfortunately, I was only there for 3 full weekends. Like we were there for a month, but I only had 3 full weekends. So I did the North Coast, I did Dublin, and I did Belfast. I did Belfast the second time. It was really good though. I've never been to Europe before, and traveling is something I've really like grown fond of. I didn't do a ton of like out of country traveling when I was young, so I've really been pushing to do that the past few years. So it was a really cool experience, and I definitely see myself going back to Europe soon and potentially moving to Europe. So
yeah, Europe is fantastic. I worked in Belfast for a few months, and I work out in Manchester in England from time to time. And if you ever get an opportunity to get stationed over there and moved over there for a while, and go do it.
Yeah.
In Europe,
I'm all for it. I know.
You can go anywhere and do anything.
So cheap. Yeah, the flights there are so cheap.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're willing to pack on a Ryanair or something like that, you're like 20 bucks.
Exactly. Ryanair. I know all about it.
It's a good time. So you've gone from Windsor to Toronto.
Yeah.
So maybe you can settle the big debate, or maybe there's something that you don't know, but we'll find out right now. Maybe you can settle the debate.
Okay.
Windsor pizza or Toronto pizza?
If you want me to be completely honest with you, the only pizza I've had in Toronto is Domino's so far.
Oh, so but are you familiar? You're familiar with the Windsor
Armando's.
white sauce?
Oh yeah.
Canned mushroom.
I don't like mushrooms, so not quite. But Armando's pizza from Windsor is very good. I'm definitely gonna have some of that when I go home for Christmas.
All right. The date is still out, and one of my buddies works is from Windsor. And he talks about Windsor pizza is apparently the pizza.
It is very good. I know we win contests. I see it on the news all the time.
So tell me, how was that transition from Windsor to Toronto for you?
Honestly, I loved it. Like Windsor, like I said, I had kind of been itching to get out for a while, and I just had that dream of like living in a big city and like walking out my door and seeing like a really nice skyline and stuff. So to finally kind of like make that happen for myself, like I'm proud of it, and like I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, kind of. It's either one or the other, right? It's either you feel really small because you moved to someplace really big, or you feel really big because now the world's your oyster, kind of thing. I remember.
Absolutely.
So I moved up from the East Coast. I'm from a community of 1,700 people, and I was moving to London, Ontario, with 350,000, and I thought I'm going to get lost. My wife, on the other hand, moved to London from Montreal, and she's gone from the city of 1 million. Now she's going to backwater Ontario, so it was perspectively very, very different experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what have you been keeping yourself busy doing in Toronto? What are the fun things? What have you been, besides festivals, which we'll get to eventually? Yeah.
I'm sure we will. I have firm belief that my friends ask questions to about that. So obviously. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, well, working obviously is taking up a lot of my time, but like I said, I'm learning. Before we started, I told you I'm learning a lot with my job, and it's very interesting, and it's something new every day. And I know it's great experience for me to be getting right now at a young age. So That's awesome. Aside from that, I still work out. I mean, I know I don't post about it as much, but I still do go to the gym quite a bit. I took up shuffling, as you brought up earlier. So that's something I actually got pretty sick a couple months ago, and I wasn't
I remember.
recovering well at the gym. And I was having like some heart issues and some stuff, still sorting it out. But I'm doing quite a bit better now. But at that time, I couldn't really work out the way I like to. Pushing myself in the gym just wasn't really an option. So I kind of really found that to be my getaway opposed to lifting. So it was nice that I was able to sort of, let go in a different way. And now that I'm starting to get better again, obviously I'm getting back in the gym and lifting more, and I'm still really enjoying the shuffling. So it's nice to have both of those things going on. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's go back then. You were in high
Mhm.
school, you were varsity in college. At what point, university, what point did you decide to take your training more seriously? And not that you didn't, but to say, okay, you know what, I could probably compete in this.
Mhm.
What led to that?
Yeah, so I think I had like a moment where I just sort of realized that I could do this when I was in grade 12. We were actually, I remember it so clearly. I was with my track team and we were all in the weight room, like getting ready to take the bus to go to a meet. And 225 was loaded up on the bar, and someone's like, I bet you can't deadlift that. And I was like, I bet I can. And I just like, I had already been doing some lifting like alongside track, right? So it's not like I just walked in cold and did it. But I was like, I mean, I'm about to go do a meet. Let's just like, straighten my back. Why not? So
Yeah, sure.
I pulled 225, and then I was like, I didn't even really expect myself to be able to do it. I didn't think I was going to be able to get it off the ground. So I was like, okay, maybe I should look into this a little bit more.
But
So,
narrow or sumo?
no, just
Just straight dead
conventional.
off the floor.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
stuff, man. You know, that's impressive. Like I know, like gosh, I wouldn't pull 225 off the floor. I'm too old. So you looked at yourself in grade 12, said I could compete. Did you
That was
do sort of
powerlifting though,
in
right?
power?
That wasn't, yeah.
Did you compete in powerlift?
I did one show when I was sub junior still, yes, before I went into
Really?
bodybuilding. Yeah, I
Do
know a lot of
you,
people don't know that about me.
do you remember your totals?
Well, I competed with the flu, so that didn't help. But I
The
think
flu.
I hit 145 bench, 260 squat, and 280 deadlift, or something along those
260
lines.
squat. 260
I
squat.
had a pretty good squat. I had a pretty good
Wow.
squat. I almost hit 300, and then I just kind of stopped powerlifting. So I pulled my
That's
intercostal deadlifting, and after that, I never went back. So
you pulled your intercostals.
yeah, like the
You don't
muscle
hear,
under your rib.
yeah, you don't
Yeah,
hear that talked about very much in the gym these days. Uh,
yeah.
so, and I mean, can I ask you? I don't know if this is we're talking about powerlifting, so I can ask. How much did you
Hmm.
weigh at the time?
Would have been around like 134, I think.
So 134, you're benching 140 plus, squatting 260, pulling 225 off the floor. That's a
Yeah,
pretty impressive feats for a first meet. And so you would have had no real big training into powerlifting up to that.
I
Just
had
kind of
no idea
just
what
gave it
I
a
was
shot.
doing.
Just
Zero
gave
clue
it a
what I was
shot.
doing. I was gonna go into the meet and not even wear like knee sleeves or a belt or anything. Like I didn't even know what those were until a week before I met with a coach, and he's like, "Yeah, you should probably wear a belt." And I was like, "Okay."
Strap up. Well, that's impressive. That's something we didn't know about you. So
There you go.
the people are going to want to do that. So okay. So after that, when did you get to the point that you felt like you wanted to compete in the bikini category?
Yeah, so I did the powerlifting show, and at that point, I was actually still on the varsity track team. Like I hadn't quit track yet, so it's actually that was a bad idea, by the way. Never powerlift and try to do track and field at the same time.
Yeah.
But after I finished track and field, that was like my first year of university. So going into my second year of university, I actually my schedule with engineering. Not a lot of the people that are in engineering, especially with a minor on top of it, do sports just because the schedules they don't work. Like I would have only been able to attend practice once or twice a week. And so they didn't even like really let me on the team. I would have had to extend my degree next year. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I kind of gave up on the track at that point. And then I still continued lifting though. Like I said, I loved lifting throughout. We always lift throughout track 3 to 4 times a week anyways. So I just kept on with that. I kept getting stronger. And then I kind of reached a point where I was starting to see the people at my gym go through contest preps and stuff, and some people on Instagram. I actually, when I was in Windsor, I went to the same gym as Clazy, and like he said, it's, it's a bodybuilding hub. So I was definitely exposed to it, and it was really intriguing. And I like obviously the aesthetic aspect to it. Obviously anyone in bodybuilding does. So I started following some competitors, and then from there, I just sort of reached out to the only coach I knew in Windsor, and we made it happen.
So who were some of the competitors you followed?
Lacey Marcoux, she did a show back in I think 2016. She's from Windsor, but she was the main person I saw because I knew nothing about it. I barely even knew the competitions existed, especially in Ontario. So she was from Windsor, and I saw her go through a prep, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. So she was definitely the inspiration to begin with. And then her friend Janet as well competed. So I saw them going through preps, and I just really, thought it'd be something cool to do. And then honestly, I started following the Ontario Muscle page probably around that time. yeah, gotta throw in the plug.
Follower. Yeah, you've
That's
been around
right.
since the beginning.
Yeah, and then I just saw more and more people doing it, and I wanted to try it. Then I did.
So you seem to be someone that really thrives after a challenge, whether it's something that you're very interested in or not. If it's a challenge, would you say that aptly describes you?
Yeah, for sure.
So what are your current challenges?
Right now, that's a good question. I almost feel like I'm at a point in my life where I don't have anything that's I'm not holding a gun to my head about anything, if that makes any sense. I'm not in a contest prep where I'm absolutely killing myself. I'm not in full-time school, but also working 3 part-time jobs and going absolutely crazy. I'm kind of living and present right now, and I'm working really hard at work. I'm enjoying myself. I'm still enjoying the gym. So I would say of all times in my life, this is probably the least challenged I've ever been, but it's the most present I've ever been. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, well, and you know what? Sometimes those ideas are diametrically opposed, and you have to be present and step back from the challenges and live the life you're in right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But the time will come again when the next challenge is in front of you, because you seem like someone that's gonna become stagnant after a little while and say, okay, what's the next big thing? Whether it's excelling in work or whatever,
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
So you made the decision to compete. You went back in 2017. You hit the FUAD Classic. Came in 4th.
Yes, I think so. It's been a while.
We'll say 4th until someone says nope,
okay.
it wasn't.
Sweet.
If it wasn't, someone will tell me.
Yeah.
Which is very, very well. And you went right to the full Ontario Championships after that. Yeah. So how was your first experience in competition? How was your first prep? Was it everything you wanted it to be?
My first prep was really, really weird, and definitely not like the other two. I did have a coach, but I wasn't working with him like I would with my coaches on my other preps. It was more distant. I would just train once a week. I wasn't really sending check-in pictures. We weren't counting food to the gram or anything like that. Basically, I got put on keto at I think 10 weeks out. No refeeds. I did cheat on my diet a bit, I'll be honest. I definitely went out drinking a couple times. I ate a lot of peanut butter because I was basically told don't eat carbs, but eat whatever else you want. I didn't really know any protein existed except chicken at that point. So I ate chicken and peanut butter all day, basically, and MCT oil. And I did 10 minutes of cardio after upper body days. That was the only cardio I did. And I got pretty shredded somehow.
So you got shredded.
Yeah, the things I would do to be back in that spot.
Working out once a week, 10 minutes.
No. I was working out 7 days a week. I didn't take a day off of training all prep, but
so 7 days a week working out, 10 minutes of cardio post workout on upper body day only.
Oh yeah.
Consisting of peanut butter and chicken together.
Mm-hmm. No, separate.
MCT oil.
Yep.
I'll go out on a limb and say that probably wasn't the best coaching advice that you could have gotten.
Yeah, we changed coaches after that. It was fun.
But you came in 4th, so.
So you went. It was okay.
So then you say your next preps were different. So I'm not going to go through all your shows because it's interesting. You went from the FUAD Championships, which I believe was a natural show.
No, that one was open.
No, so you did the open show, and actually talking. I've spoken to a lot of girls who I know are 100% natty, but they compete in the open shows and do better.
Yeah, that's me.
That
yourself, was exactly me. Yeah.
Iron curls and curling irons. Nadia, she's the same, and because some people bring such a grainy hardness when they for a bikini competitor that in the natural shows they kind of don't. The judges don't look for that, but in the open shows they do. So that's fantastic. So you competed 3 or 4 more times over that last one, 2018 Toronto Pro Qualifier.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your prep for. Do you remember your prep from Toronto Pro?
Very, very well.
Oh, how was that prep compared to the first one?
It was like opposite side of the world different. At that point, I think if you want to be honest, if I were to talk to myself 2 years ago from who I am today, I would have told myself to not do that prep for a couple of reasons. Number one, I had already done 2 preps pretty much back to back, but the issue was that the month in between, I would go balls to the wall with food, put on the weight, and then, my metabolism hasn't really reset at that point. So now I have some extra weight on me, but the calories aren't up. My maintenance calories aren't up. So I feel like my starting point wasn't the best. I definitely would not compete again unless my starting point was a lot better. So I had a solid amount of weight to lose in 16 weeks. I was a student at the time, so I was full time. I was working 3 part-time jobs, and I was broke. So trying to compete when you're broke and in school is not ideal. I can definitely say that. And then another thing with me is I just feel like when it comes to weight loss, unless my life is in harmony and everything is good and happy and I'm not stressed out, like I struggle to lose weight. Like if my cortisol is up, I struggle to lose weight. I did a 16-week prep, and for 6 weeks straight my weight stayed the same, and I was lowering my calories every time and upping my cardio every time, like weekly, and I was stagnant. So it got to a point where my coach was kind of like, look, you're 6 weeks out. I don't think you're going to come in as tight as we want you to come in. What do you want to do? And I was so, into it. I was like, no, we're going for it. Like, kill me. So it was very tough at the end. And I was very dazed all day, very tired. I wasn't sleeping, but that was the hardest I've ever pushed myself. And I'm grateful for that, I guess. But yeah, it was tough. I brought to the stage definitely my best package, but could I have brought better if I took my time? Absolutely. Could I have brought better if I wasn't so stressed out and I wasn't, financially freaking out? Probably. But it's a lesson learned, and I'm taking that with me now moving forward when I go into another prep eventually. So
you did do that prep. You're happy with the package you bought. I mean, you finished outside the top 10, which is fine. Big class at the time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And you learned a lot. So
yeah.
It's one of the things I'm finding now in the prep I'm in. You learn a lot about yourself. So what are some of the big lessons you learned about yourself?
I would say my biggest lesson is, and I think this is a lesson that I should have learned even before bodybuilding, but I think it took bodybuilding and the severity of that situation for me to understand. Sometimes you really have to just ground yourself and get out of your own head and analyze the situation from the outside. Because like I said, everything in my life was, I don't want to say going wrong, but all of the circumstances were pointing at don't do a prep, but I was so focused in on it that that's all I saw. I didn't see all the red flags my body was giving me, and I ignored everything else when I probably should have pulled out or not done the prep in the first place and just gave myself time to have an off season. So I think the biggest thing for me was just learning to not be so asphyxiated on something, and to have a more holistic perspective when I'm making decisions, and especially when it comes to my body and my health. I have to really consider the long-term goal and the long-term picture.
That's a hard lesson for you to learn, I think, because as a challenge-oriented individual,
exactly,
you laser focus on that thing in front of you, right? And to hell with whatever's going on around you, you're going to get that goal.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why you went into process manufacturing, because you don't see the process.
Maybe.
So, did that prep give you any reservations about potentially competing again?
I do plan on competing again, and I actually I actually originally planned on doing the October show. That was 2 months ago. But once I found out I was going to be going to Ireland, and with that, I didn't know exactly where I was going to be placed when I came back to Canada and stuff like that. And, a bunch of moves, different places, didn't know what gyms I'd be at, the food available, everything. I was like, you know what, knowing my body and knowing, that I don't do well with stress, and when I'm trying to lose weight, I just thought it made more sense to, hold it off and wait until the timing made more sense. And, there's always that phrase of, there's never a best time to do it. But I think I need to be more practical about when I choose to do preps. Because like I said, I did 3 back to back to back when I was a student, working more than one job every prep. that was craziness. And I look back at that and I'm like, little Kim, like you were nuts for trying to do that because I don't think I'd ever do that to myself again, you know?
Yeah, you did. Looking at the shows and recalling the dates, you did about what? You would have done 3 shows inside 12 months.
I did 5 shows in 12
Five
months.
shows?
Yeah,
Wow. Oh,
that's
that's
what I
right. The
mean.
FUAD was early. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, 5 shows in 12 months. That's what I mean. So I was so, like I said, I was so like that I was like, I didn't care about anything else. That's all I wanted to do. And I mean, that's great to be super focused on a goal like that, but not at the cost of everything else, not at the cost of like my financial security. And, like even when I got really deep into a prep, like I could feel my grades start to slip a little bit. And I was like, you know what, like we need to pull the plug. Like there's more
Yeah.
important things, right? So yeah, I was going to do that prep or the show in October. I decided not to. And then I'm definitely considering doing a prep next year. I'm itching for it, like I'll be honest, but it's just a matter of is my body ready for it, and also is
Right.
my wallet ready for it. I did just move to Toronto. Rent is not cheap
Yeah.
here. I like traveling. I know I'm gonna have to make a lot of sacrifices if I can even like fathom trying to make it work. So I don't know when I'll be on stage again. I would like to be on stage next year, but it's just a matter of doing it with the right timing this time for sure.
Well, you have to keep us up to date as soon as you know what kind of a show you're going to do. But health first.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Absolutely, get yourself looked
Yeah.
after and whatnot.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about that health scare that you had, if you can.
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
don't
Tell
really,
us the story. What's going on?
yeah, no, I don't really know what it was. If you want me to be honest, it was after a festival weekend. I was like very dehydrated and obviously
Mm.
drinking and all of that. And I almost had like a mini seizure.
Wow.
And so I kind of brushed it off, and it was right when I started my new job. It was quite a disaster actually. So I wasn't feeling well at all for a couple of weeks, but I had just started my new job, so I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna power through it, whatever. And eventually, it just got to a point where I was like getting flushed out, like very dizzy, like pounding headaches all day and stuff like that. So I ended up I was in the hospital twice, still running tests. I found out my hormones are pretty whack, but right now I'm on a wait list for specialists and stuff for that. And
Okay.
I don't, of course competing can play a role in that, but I
Very
know
fair.
those issues stemmed back to even before when I was an athlete in high school and university. So I don't want to blame that on competing. I think my body's reset since, my last show at this point. So yeah, I don't exactly know what's going on. I know I feel a lot better now. It took me a while to feel better though, and I'm still going through tests. I have an MRI on my brain scheduled for the end of December. So I guess just do that and see what happens. But I'm just making sure that I'm actively taking care of it. It's weird because it was a really hard thing to go through for the time that I was feeling really shitty. But I'm
Right.
just thankful to be feeling better now. And like I said, I'm seeing the right doctors and just trying to figure out what happened. So
Oh, good. Well, I mean, it's scary
yeah,
when it happens, uh,
yeah, for sure,
and but at least you're on the road to recovery and you're getting seen by the right people. Uh,
exactly.
it's a bit of a scary thing, especially at a young age, where
Hmm.
symptoms like that are kind of hard to deal with, because you don't really know,
Yeah,
is it going to be here today, gone tomorrow, or is it, how is
exactly.
it going to
And
affect me and when?
right.
Oh, so, but
Yeah.
you're feeling good these days?
Oh yeah, no, I'm feeling a lot better. I would say the biggest thing for me is I did have like I took a long time off of lifting. Obviously for a very long time I was lifting 5, 6 days a week. Like I never took a week off, nothing like that.
Right.
So when I initially started getting sick, it's slowly. I was still trying to push the gym at first, and then I realized like you need to stop. So I pulled back, and I was only doing like light cardio. And
Okay.
now I am getting back into lifting, but it is absolutely insane how sore I get because my body's not used to it now, right? But I'll do
Sure. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
like to train hard too. So like I'll go do like literally 8 to 10 sets of legs, and I'm like can't walk for like 3 days. So it's really interesting because I used to do 2.5 hour leg workouts 3 days a week, like when I was crazy, but. I don't know. It's easing back into everything. I'm just thankful to be in the gym, and I'm healthy. I'm here, so I really can't
That'll,
complain.
that'll come back, and you know what? We'll
Yeah.
hopefully get to see you on the stage soon. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the lessons that you learned, sort of pitfalls? Beside, I know we talked about your kind of your holistic view, but specific prep pitfalls that you will now watch out for, say when you do your next prep.
Hmm. Um, I would say not being so concerned about picking. Well, number one, giving myself enough time because, like I said, I mean, I gave myself 16 weeks last time, but with like all the things I had going on, it just wasn't enough time. So I would definitely give myself more time. I would give myself a better starting shape and better starting conditioning,
Mhm.
and I guess know when. And it's hard because obviously it's usually a coach making decisions, but I think know when you need to sort of pull back a little bit because I'm not one to like if something's hard, like I'll just push through it. But there were times in my last prep where like things were really hard and like it was really bad. Like it got to a point where I would like call my mom while I was driving because I'm like, Mom, I'm like really dizzy. Like I don't know what to do. So like, at that point it's like, yeah, you should probably take a day off of the gym or you should probably have a refeed. So definitely listening to my body. And I think that becomes more acceptable to do if you have more time to get lean. So
Absolutely. So when you
yeah.
were driving yourself so hard last time,
Yeah.
which you've learned we won't do that again. How do
Mm-hmm.
when what were some of the tricks that you did to help keep you focused on diet and things like that? Anything in particular or
Focused on diet, I don't know if I'd say that
on
it's
track? On track.
yeah, keep me on track. Um, I like have this really strange addiction to eating egg whites with salsa. Like even now, not being in a prep, I have it for
Oh,
3 of my 4 meals as my source of protein. I just really like it.
sounds
So
tasty.
that yeah, so that was something I looked forward to a lot in prep. I drank way too much coffee in prep. I will say that very honestly. So that was something else I looked forward
Really
to. Yeah.
keeps you
Cheers
full.
to that. Yeah.
And it's funny. I was telling you sort of off camera. I'd gone out and got my phone replaced, and because of the
Hmm.
timing, I had to eat an hour early. And I'm like,
Oof, tough.
I know I'm gonna regret this later.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
yeah, for
I'm looking
sure.
at the clock. I'm like, it's got to be 8 o'clock. I need this podcast to start, or else I'm gonna eat something, and I don't get to eat till 9. Oh yeah, absolutely. Coffee is key for me, and water, tons of water.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Lots of water.
so if you were to give someone advice who's looking to compete based on your experiences,
Hmm.
what are a couple of pieces of advice you'd offer?
I would say take a lot of time before jumping into a prep. I think, especially in the Windsor area, bodybuilding, like it wasn't popular when I first got into it. When I first started looking into it, it was like 2016, and I only knew of like the one girl in Windsor who competed, besides like a couple of older people at my gym. So I was like, oh, this girl in Windsor gets coached by this person. Let me like just message this person. Like, let's just go for it. It was 10 weeks out when I like met
Mhm.
with the coach the first time. So and I didn't really know any better. And I didn't really know like, oh, what's the ideal shape for bikini? How much muscle do I need?
Right.
Like what question should I ask a coach? So I didn't really know any of these things. So I would say like the biggest thing is just take your time making those decisions. And bikini, a lot of girls will be like, oh, it's bikini. I don't need to put on size before I compete. But I would say you do, like there's a big focus on having like the rounded shoulders, like the X frame, like the
Hmm.
separation in the hamstrings and the glutes. And like that all takes time to build. And especially for me, I'm someone who's naturally like a little bit denser and I have like a thicker core and like wider rib cage. So for me to really like emulate the look that you should have in bikini, like it does require me to have, like the cap delts and to have like like good size on my glutes and even your lats, like that contributes to your X frame too.
Right.
So
Yeah.
taking the time to really build muscle, but like more specifically build muscle for whatever division you're going to be in, because that was another thing. Before I was training in powerlifting, that's powerlifting is not going to help you look good in bikini. I hate to say it, but I would have trained a lot differently had I known those things ahead of time, I guess.
Okay. Now, if you make a
Yeah,
return to the stage, will you do bikini again?
it's a
And
great
there's a reason
question.
I asked that question.
Yeah, so like I said, I do have a gymnastics background and I've learned like the shuffling too and stuff. So I mean, I think the category that definitely makes the most sense for me would be fitness. The reason why I would maybe be a little bit hesitant to try fitness is number one, I have some injuries lingering from the sports I played. Like I have arthritis at 22, go figure, and a bunch of other, things that could definitely flare up if I tried to compete in fitness. So that's
Right. Right.
one thing that's holding me back a little bit.
Okay.
Um, but I definitely think I have a lot more potential in that division. So it's something that I would definitely consider doing. Bikini, if I competed at all, I would absolutely do bikini, at least at a regional show, just so I could see
Mhm.
the comparisons in my shape and the improvements and
Right.
stuff. But I'm not entirely sure which division I would focus on yet. Like I said, I think I have more potential in fitness, but bikini I think is safer in terms of longevity, and I really like that look. So
Have you
we'll
looked
see.
into the new wellness category at all?
I have heard, yeah, of course I have. It's intriguing to me. My thing though is like to me, wellness is the same as bikini, but you have more size in your legs, and obviously the
Bigger.
posing, yeah, and the posing is a little bit different. So I, it's intriguing, like I said, but I also think the fact that I have a wide waist would almost hold me back in wellness because your front pose is straight on, right? So I
Sure.
think the development I'd need to have in like my medial delts and in like my glutes, my quads and stuff, I think it'd be easier for me to match the criteria for bikini because you can really twist away your waist in bikini. So I think I would do better in bikini.
You wouldn't consider figure?
That's the question. That's a whole nother level. I'll just say that flat out. I've considered it. If I did figure, I probably would compete in the natural stream. I don't really see
Sure.
myself competing figure in the open stream, but in that same token, I'm almost at a point where I'm like, why would I compete in natural to try to get this, pro card, but then go into the pro league and it be open? I feel like that's also a little bit counterintuitive. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's obviously I've considered it, but I think I would definitely do bikini or fitness before figure.
Yeah, and you know what? The bikini category, as much as people like to say it's an accessible category, it's not. You know what? I get a kick out of that. Some of the organizations, and they'll say, the men's physique or whatever is supposed to be accessible, the attainable physique, and you know what? It's not.
They're all
Um,
very challenging in their own ways. Like I'll be honest,
that's 100.
if
percent
if I think for just my personal taste, I prefer the look of bikini, but if I preferred the look of figure, like I think bikini for me is probably harder to obtain than figure because if I were a figure athlete, I would just kind of go balls to the wall and train heavy and like kind of love
Right,
it.
right.
But like in an ideal world, I could look like Angelica but train like a figure pro. That's how
Okay.
I would describe myself.
Yeah, I don't know. They're kind of done, not quite diametrically opposed, but almost.
Uh,
So
yeah.
who do you look up to in the local bikini scene?
I think like the number one person I've followed for a long time and sort of watched rise to their fame is Jennifer Dory. Obviously, starting a few years ago, she was one of the like, wow, like on the national stage, and now she's like
Yeah.
top 5 at Olympia. So it's really
Yeah.
cool to watch. And Laura Lee too. I've always loved Laura Lee's shape, and I think she has the potential to win. So those two definitely. And just like locally too. I mean, there are a lot of people, they're not Olympia level and, they don't have 100,000 followers, but there are a lot of people around Ontario and around Canada that I really look up to, and I've been following their journey for a long time. So it's like really cool to watch people develop.
So, okay, you're talking about a lot of people around Ontario. How do you find the community of bikini athletes, competitive athletes from the female perspective?
Honestly, I mean, in any sport, you're going to have, maybe people that are in it for the wrong reasons or whatever that may be, or people who are petty or don't want to make friends. But for the most part, I would say 95% of the people I've met through this are the most amazing people. And I would say almost all of my best friends I've met through this sport.
Excellent.
Everyone, I think everyone, especially who competes, we just sort of have this like underlying respect for one another because we all know, like this is not an easy thing to do. And it's something you can really bond over. And like I found that like going through preps, having, a girl or two like really close to me that I could prep with, like last year for the pro
Right.
show, it was Petunia and Lorraine. I don't
Yeah,
know if
yeah.
you're familiar with them, but it was kind of the three of us who would like send each other videos while on the Stairmaster doing cardio, and like really, we lifted each other up, and it was like such a team vibe between like the girls last year prepping for that show. So that was really cool. And
Excellent.
yeah, overall, like I said, a lot of my best friends came from this sport, and I've had several more like good encounters and good relationships than bad ones. So
Excellent. So, and you're
yeah,
right. It's absolutely unifying
yeah,
to do something common, and especially when you're doing it together. So you must have some fun prep stories that you can, any fun prep stories that you can share?
fun prep stories.
Weird things you've done or things you've encountered.
Okay. Definitely the number one, and people, I mean, still call me crazy for this, but I just got to a point in my last prep, and I was very, very hungry, and I just got to a point of like I just wanted to put something physically in my mouth. So I got to a point where I started.
Right on. Just like
Yeah. Anyways.
random objects, you know, or
No, no,
spoons,
no.
or
No. So I would eat like coffee grinds, like instant coffee grinds. Uh, yeah,
that's
I don't.
disgusting.
I
Kim,
was
what's wrong
desperate.
with you?
I
Right?
know. And then the thing was is that translated me into eating coffee with a spoon. So for the longest time, and I still do
Oh,
it sometimes, I'll be at a restaurant out for like breakfast with my family and I start eating my coffee out of the cup with my spoon and people are looking at me like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, it's a prep habit." So
didn't they have like sugar-free Jello back then?
that was not on my diet plan.
But it's sugar-free Jello. It's on everybody's diet plan.
Was not on
Yeah.
mine. I was like,
Coffee.
I
That's
mean,
probably the weirdest one.
yeah, probably. I mean, by the end, I think 4 of my 5 meals were 3 ounces of tilapia and green veg. So I wasn't having sugar-free Jello or really anything fun in my diet. So
Well,
I
if
ate
you were
coffee grounds.
keto, yeah, you probably wouldn't. So coffee grinds, well, yeah.
It's weird, I know. You
I
asked
don't know.
for weird, I
I don't
give
know
you
what to say.
weird.
I don't know what to say about it, to be quite honest. So, have you had to come up with any prep hacks and things like that? Anything go wrong last minute before show?
Oh, yeah. So this was like almost the most heartbreaking thing ever. I was in my hotel getting ready for prejudging for Toronto Pro last year, and I was putting on my bottoms of my suit, and I was trying to sort of like inch like the side connectors up because I didn't want to like just kind of scrape it up. I didn't want to ruin my tan, right?
All
And
right.
so I was like trying to like pull the connector over my hip, and my suit broke.
Oh
And
my
this is
God.
like maybe an hour and a half before I had to go on stage. Like, and it didn't even break in like a nice spot. Like the connector literally broke in half.
Oh my God.
So I was like, amazing. I had one backup suit, but it was like a really tacky suit. I wore my first show with like the hanging connectors and like barely any like beads on it. And I was like, I'm literally not competing unless I'm wearing this like actual suit. I'm not wearing my backup suit. So I immediately called my coach, like freaking out, obviously. And she's like, "Okay, just like come into the venue. We'll see what we can do." So I'm like backstage, like running, like holding my suit onto me. And so I get back there and I think my coach was competing too at that show. And they start taking out a sewing kit and we're like trying to sew the connector and that didn't work. So they ended up just taking like, the glue that they use on our butts. They glued my suit to me. I had to go on stage with
Really?
my suit glued to me. So I was terrified. I was like, what happens if my suit
It,
just breaks off of me while
yeah,
I'm on stage?
turns into a different kind
So
of show real quick.
I guess so. So that was a little bit stressful and yeah, it wasn't fun to deal with. It was very, I would say almost emotional. I was trying not to cry because I had, my makeup all done and stuff, but I was
That's
I was
right.
definitely freaking out.
Oh man, I can't imagine
Yeah.
what that felt like.
Yeah. Yeah. It was terrible.
So I mean, we focused a lot on fitness and your early years
Hmm.
education, and you've been here a long time already. I don't want to keep you too long, but I want to talk about some other things in your social media. We get to see
Okay.
you're musically inclined. Piano is your
Yes.
primary instrument. Any others?
Yeah. I've picked up like a little bit of guitar, but I just sort of for fun. I would say I only play piano.
And where does your passion for piano come from?
Um, where does it come from?
What
Well,
do you love about
oh, I just genuinely love music. Like, I mean, I'm sure people see on my Instagram, I'm always at these events, I'm always at these festivals, but I think what people don't understand is how like deeply rooted into me it is. When I was like 9 or 10 years old, my meme had like an organ at her house, and I would always like go try to play it, and like they taught me like a couple like basic songs, like Twinkle Little Star and stuff. And I
it?
was saying, oh, like I like this. And so across the street from my meme, there was a guy who was in a band, and he actually played piano. So we ended up talking to him, and he gave me lessons for a couple of years, and that's how I started up with it.
Oh, wow.
I really appreciated the way he taught me because a lot of people go just like straight by the books and do like grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. But I was pretty, like I got pretty good quickly, I guess you could say. So he kind of said, screw the books, and he just taught me, like real songs, and he taught me how to compose a little bit, and like chord bases and all of that. So I had a really good foundation just after like a year and a half. And after that, I did continue it on my own. I was doing like more classical and blues kind of music back then, because he was in like a blues band, so I was doing like blues and stuff like that. And then when I was probably 13, 14 years old, that's when I started sort of listening to electronic music, like Avicii and stuff like that. So and at that point, I basically went from playing classic, and then I just started playing EDM like all the time, like electronic music. So I had a really good ear for it. So I would just sort of figure out the chords, and then because I was listening to the songs all the time, I knew exactly how the melodies would go, and then I would sort of just figure it out, and like make it interesting, make it difficult. And I did that I still do it today. It sucks I don't have a piano here, hopefully soon, but I still love that to this day. And it was nice because I did teach piano for quite a long time, probably about 7 years. And I was able to really pass that on to a few of my like good students as well, the ability to kind of compose and do that with like popular music today. So yeah.
So you went from classical piano to EDM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's go right into festivals from there.
Oh yeah.
So we've all seen that you've gone to a number of festivals. You've flown all over, probably everywhere from Vegas and back again. What would you say? What are your top, say, couple of festivals that you've been to?
EDC, 100,000%. So EDC, that's the one that's in Las Vegas. In terms of numbers, it's the largest in the world. So they just officially broke that record this year. It's absolutely insane. There's like 7 giant stages. And when I say giant, I mean like giant. It's at the Motor Speedway in Vegas, and it takes up the entire thing. And they have, I don't know, probably 150 plus DJs on that lineup, but the production level is just absolutely insane. And I mean, it's almost like a fitness community in a sense, where you kind of meet people online through it. And, so I would have friends from California going to Vegas, and that's where you meet the first time. It's almost like having like an Olympia or like a Toronto Pro Qualifier. So it was really cool to be able to meet a lot of people there. That was definitely my number one. And I don't think any of the other ones have been compared to that, to be honest.
And do you survive on like 2 bottles of water and a bag of chips for the weekend, or?
Absolutely. It's terrible. You have 1 meal a day and you don't sleep. So it took me a while to recover from that trip, but that's okay. It was like the best trip of my life. So
awesome. I mean, I watch it all the time with the different people I see that are into the festival life, and I've started listening to some of the music because of that. And it's pretty fascinating, pretty fascinating stuff. I mean, the higher the BPM, the better.
Oh yeah, you gotta check out hardstyle
in the gym. Oh, hardstyle and French core and all these.
Oh,
and I'm an old man, so but
there you go.
So that's fantastic. I can imagine the conversation. So you fly down to Vegas and you get to border control, and they say, where are you going? So I'm going to EDC. Oh, with who? Friends. Where did you meet them? Oh, online.
Oh, I've had the conversation too many times.
Met them online.
Yeah.
I actually had a buddy of mine who was into saltwater tanks, and he had he was in a group, and it was called the Reefers.
Yeah.
And they said at the border where they met. They said, well, we met on saltwater reefers, and as soon as they said reefer, that was it. The whole car was Anyway, so piano shuffling is something else that you've gotten into, probably hooked into your love for fast BPM music and whatnot. And I remember you actually put out a training plan not too long ago that you were going to follow on Instagram. And
I did.
Had shuffling in there.
Oh yeah, I was working. Yeah, I was working with a coach even in the spring, doing like a mini cut, and I asked to have that put in on my plan as cardio, because let me tell you, it is cardio. Like after my show last year, I rebounded a little too much, I'll say, but I haven't done any intense preps or super intense dieting since, and I've lost 20 pounds, and I attribute most of that to shuffling, to be honest. So
and I remember like one of the first times I've ever saw shuffling, I was looking at it, and it's an Instagram, and I'm like, what are they? That looks weird. But then I clicked the speaker, so you hear the music.
Oh
And it's not just somebody flailing in silence. It actually makes much more sense when the music happens. So it's absolutely fascinating to watch.
Yeah,
What?
it's super funny because I have like a studio downstairs at my condo, so that's usually where I practice. But most of the time, I'll just have my headphones in listening to the music. So I just feel terrible for anyone at the gym that's like right in that area that's not listening to music themselves because all they're hearing is me like stomping against the ground to nothing.
And on a gym floor, like, how do your sneakers not get caught on the floor and trip you? And like, it looks like
Uh,
you should.
it's difficult, and it's also very difficult to like my condo floor is just like sort of normal flooring, so that's pretty easy to move around on. But like the flooring that I practice on, it's like a rubber gym type flooring, so that's really difficult to move on. And I have probably gained a pound of muscle in each of my calves, to be honest, just from shuffling on that surface. So for
Well,
anybody who needs calves.
next time we do a calf call out, we'll tag you in, and you can show the calves in there.
There you go.
Let's talk about social media for a little bit, and we're almost approaching an hour, and I don't ever
Mhm.
want to keep anyone past an hour. But so how has your social media affected your life?
I would say it was definitely something I focused on a lot when I was competing. So right before I started prepping for my first show, I kind of, oh, like this is my new fitness page, I did that whole thing. And then all through all three of my preps, I was like very active on Instagram, like posting almost every day, stories all day long and stuff,
Right.
mostly fitness related. I think after this past prep in 2018, I just was like, okay, you know what? Let's take a bit of a break. And I think the issue was too, I think I got into it so young and I was so naive, I guess, at 18, thinking like, oh my God, I'll be Miss Bikini Olympia. Like, I'm going to get 100,000 followers on Instagram. And, a lot of people do have that mentality when they start, especially people really young that kind of don't know any better. So at first, that was sort of the goal. Like, I'm going to, grow my Instagram. Maybe I'll be an online coach one day and all of that. And
Right.
then, I realized, you're keeping your day job. You're not going to be a fitness Instagram star. And I just, I realized I don't need to post everything that I do every second of the day on social media. So, I mean, it's done great things for me. I obviously like in my past preps, I've had sponsors and stuff, and I've had a lot of like modeling opportunities. I did actually go to
Mhm.
Jamaica last year and I was in a calendar. So like that's definitely, I would say, the coolest thing that's come of, my social media. But I don't really have any specific goals for it. I don't want to, run my social media with a goal of like trying to increase followers. Like at this point, I just really put on it what I want to. I share things that, I'm passionate about. And right now,
Right.
like I love Toronto and I love walking out my door every day and seeing the skyline. So I post that. Is that going to like make me money or make me famous? No, but I enjoy it. So I share it. And again, like music, I share music all day long and that's not doing anything for me, but it's just what I'm passionate about right now. So.
And that's absolutely the right approach. A lot of people, if you approach social media with the idea that I'm gonna, what can I do to get 1,000 followers or 2,000 followers or whatever, and
Yeah.
then you start posting what you think people are gonna want to see, but what people
Hmm.
want to see is you.
Authenticity.
And
Yeah.
people want authenticity in their social media and value.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
kind of that's what you offer, which is fantastic because your social
Thank you.
media now is not, it's kind of 360-degree social media. It's not just kind of one
Absolutely. Yeah.
facet of your life, and you are a
Yeah.
multifaceted individual. Um, but before we go, we did get some questions, and I would like to get to
No.
them.
Okay.
Now, do you
I was
want me to
warned by
tell
my
you?
friends.
Do you want me to tell you who asked these questions? Because
Absolutely. I'm ready for
your
it.
the math scientist
Oh,
came through
yeah.
with a few questions, and
I know.
I've had an
He told
opportunity
me.
to chat with them, and some of them are fun.
Awesome.
So let's
Okay.
question number one: what is the worst injury or setback, and how did you overcome it?
I would say in this sport, I guess, or sort of in lifting, it was definitely my intercostal. So I was, like I said,
Okay.
at that point, I was like really, really into powerlifting and it was totally my own fault. I had no idea what I was doing. I was hitting, like, I was trying to hit a PR on every lift, like every day. Like I literally just did not have a clue. And
Right.
I pulled my intercostal trying to deadlift a weight I probably shouldn't have tried deadlifting. And that was extremely painful. And I was on really high, like, prescription painkillers for a while. And
Right.
that sort of scared me enough to not go back to powerlifting. So I would say that was probably the worst one. That and the arthritis that I have now.
As a result of all the other sports that you play.
Exactly. Yeah.
He asked a few questions. Which one? Let's keep this a little PG. He
Oh
said,
gosh.
well, it's just one word in particular.
Okay.
Have sex with, marry, or kill your
Oh no.
piano, the gym, or raving and shuffling?
Oh, gosh. I think marry the gym.
Marry the gym. Have sex with the piano? I don't understand that.
Maybe. Yeah, I think
Shuffling?
so. I think I'd have to throw shuffling out because I know the gym and music are so inherently me, whereas the shuffling, like, will I be doing that at 30? I don't know. Maybe it's just a phase, but I think I have to go with the kill shuffling.
Oh my gosh. And you
That's
did follow
tough,
up with a
but
question on whether you can rave without being detrimental to your progress, but I think you've kind of shown that you can already.
yeah.
Someone asked if you would be willing to do a shuffle tutorial on Instagram.
Oh, wow. I
And
could. That would be fun.
how much time, oh, actually, it's a question. How much time do you spend practicing your shuffling every week?
It depends on the week. I would say it definitely is like my main source of cardio that I do. And when I practice, I'll usually practice for about like 45 minutes, max an hour. Like when I first started, I couldn't do it for more than 20 minutes. I would literally be dying. But my stamina's improved, thankfully. So I would say probably 45 minutes to an hour, 3 to 4 times a week at this point. For a very long time, it wasn't near enough. But now that I have like the studio downstairs and I'm not lifting as much, I do it more
Right.
often for sure. Yeah.
All right. Are there any myths about being a bikini girl that you want to squash or set straight?
Myths.
Mhm.
Um, like I said, I think the biggest one is the whole you just kind of have to be skinny and diet thing.
Right.
There's a difference between maybe doing well at like a regional show in that sense. Like you never know who's showing up to competition. Maybe that person was the only one who competed in their class. But I mean, I think people should put into perspective what the pros look like and how much muscle mass and shape they actually have.
Right.
Because it's not an easy look to obtain, and like the cap delts and like the fullness and the roundness in glutes, like that's not something you can just diet for 10 weeks and have, takes a lot of time.
Oh, absolutely. No, that's very, very true. Let's get to a couple more. Classic Clazy,
Mm-hmm.
Brandon, who was on the
Classic
podcast
lazy.
last week.
Yeah.
That's got to be something that you say, when he does something. It's like, oh, the classic Clazy.
I wouldn't say so much classic. Like that's definitely the Instagram handle, like that's set, but we just all call him Clazy. I've never called him Brandon before, to be honest.
Maybe he's trying to do things that are classic. I don't know.
Oh,
He
there
said
you
he
go.
has he
Maybe.
says, what's been your best cheat meal this year?
This year.
He's probably referring to something he made.
I haven't
'Cause-
had anything he made, to be honest. I don't
Okay,
think
because
so.
he's handy in the kitchen apparently. So
Yeah, that's a really good question. Um, I would say probably ice cream. I really love ice cream. I've gotten some pretty crazy ice cream a couple times just in Windsor with like it's at this cute little place like down the road, and I go with my
okay.
parents and my dog and we just go eat ice cream together. So I would say probably that. It's not super
Okay.
interesting, but
Did,
I
did
guess
you
I'm
get
not
a
the foodie I used to be.
Did you get a chance to eat anything fun over in Ireland? Steak and kidney
Um,
pie.
Not quite. I try to be pretty strict on my diet in Ireland for the most part. It was really nice actually because like my company like the way it works is like because it was a work trip, like it was paid for, but we got like $50 a day for food. So I kind of
Okay.
just ran with that and I made myself like a really nice like salmon dinner every single night. So that
Sweet.
was fun.
50
Yeah.
bucks.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. I couldn't even make that amount happen.
All right, let's get to one more question, and this
Yeah.
is a good one. Who would win in a fight? Kim Miller fit or Kim Miller lit?
Kim Miller lit. Hands down. I don't know who asked that question, but I love them.
Wow.
She's wild.
Kim Miller lit is
She has
wild.
endless energy.
Is that what your name transforms into when you go and hit the ground at EDC?
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like someone just said it to me once. It was definitely someone in the Windsor crew. Like it was like after my prep last year, and I started going to festivals, and they're like, "Yeah, you're Kim Miller lit now," and it was like, true. So I actually, not a lot of people know this. It was private, and I didn't make a big deal about it. But I actually had an Instagram page called Kim Miller lit for a while. But when I started looking for job opportunities, I thought I should probably not have that Instagram page anymore. So it's long gone, but it did exist at one point.
If you go Google Kim Miller Lit, you'll probably still find it. You do know there's no such thing as deleting on the internet.
Yeah, well, I hope to God those. Yeah, I hope that's gone.
Oh, wow.
Anyways.
Challenge accepted. Oh, we hope it's gone.
Oh no, yeah.
Well,
For my sake,
really...
let's hope it's gone.
Uh-oh. Social media scrubbing. There's companies that specialize in it. So.
Oh, perfect.
It's been really great to sit and have a chat with you. An hour flies by real fast. And
for sure.
Never even got to half the topics that I had kind of written down. So maybe we can get you to come back in the future. Or when you pick a show and start to get into a prep, maybe you'll be willing to come back.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely. That'd be fun.
Thank you so much for being here. We were a great guest. It was great to get to know you a little better. And we'll talk to you again real soon.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Your source for all that is fitness. Ontario Muscle. Subscribe.